Kanye West appears to be in better spirits. The rapper went on a sort of a Twitter tirade, it appeared, Monday night, sparking a mixed reaction. But early Tuesday, he posted this video on Twitter of him joined by comedian and friend Dave Chappelle, who hopped on a jet to check on him. The day before his online supposedly rant lit up social media, Kanye West had a public meltdown at his campaign rally in South Carolina on Sunday. Psychiatrist and TV personality Dr. Imani Walker weighed in on Twitter, sharing her medical opinion on his behavior. She tweeted, quote, "Kanye is very ill. This is mania. I understand how frustrating this can be, but this is truly what bipolar disorder can look like. It's sad that he has no insight currently to get better. I hope he does find help, and soon." So Dr. Imani Walker joins us now because we wanted to use this opportunity to discuss bipolar disorder, the mental illness the rapper suffers from, and about 3% of adults in the U.S., according to the last count from the National Institute of Mental Illness. Dr. Imani, first, I just want to ask you what inspired you to share your medical perspective about this matter online. What were you seeing that you felt you needed to step in?
Well, in actuality, I'd received links to Kanye's rally by about maybe 2 or 3 of my friends. And I thought that me being a psychiatrist and, like you had mentioned, TV personality, I thought that I would be the best person to kind of break down and explain exactly what Kanye has been going through based upon what we've seen of him in the news. So, and I also have a podcast that is coming out on Thursday called Imani State of Mind, and we actually are going to go more in depth about bipolar disorder. So I just wanted to, at least while I had some time on Sunday, some downtime, explain to people, okay, this is what bipolar disorder can look like. This is what mania is like. This is why it's sometimes a bit difficult for people to want to accept help, and it also can be very hard for family and friends to convince, let's say, someone who may be having a lot of signs and symptoms of bipolar disorder to actually get help.
And this is not the first time that Kanye West has done something like this. So you tweeted an example of actually way back in the day, something that people laugh about, Kanye West and the Taylor Swift scandal at the VMAs back in 2009. But you said that that was a sign. How was that a sign of bipolar disorder? And what are some other common signs people can look for in themselves or maybe their loved ones if they feel like they may be suffering from this?
So I think it's a little bit hard for people who are not mental health professionals to kind of tease out behavior that could be symptomatic. So I remember when he went to the MTV Awards, he had his head like he had little cuts in his hair, like shaved, like all like concentrically around his head. And although he is a bit of an ostentatious personality, he went up on to the stage, to the podium, and did something that was very impulsive and basically said, you know, Taylor Swift doesn't deserve this award. It should have gone to Beyonce. The cut to Beyonce, she looks horrified. But beyond that, when it comes to bipolar disorder, there are 2 types. There's bipolar type 1 and bipolar type 2. Kanye has been exhibiting symptoms of bipolar disorder type 1 for quite some time. His mother passed away some years ago, and although a lot of people like to point that as the kind of sentinel event that caused his symptoms to spiral out of control, he actually was the right age for these type of symptoms to actually occur, because in males they can occur anywhere from late teens to, you know, early to mid 20s. So with bipolar disorder, we're talking about 2 different poles. We're talking about someone being ecstatic and manic, and we're talking about someone who can also vacillate between being manic and depressed. So with Kanye, if you notice, if you do a news search and you look at him and his behavior over the past 4 to 6 weeks, let's say, there are times when he's calm and he's like, you know what, I'm going to give money to this organization. It's going to benefit Black Lives Matter. But then a week later, he's like, oh, I'm going to run for president. And even though I'm not on the ticket, I'm going to get it done. So some typical signs and symptoms of bipolar disorder can include impulsivity, pressured speech, which means that he talks really fast. That was evident on Sunday. racing thoughts, which again can lead to pressured speech, because when you're manic and you're having an episode, the thoughts in your head can move very fast, so they race. Along with that, the person can experience anxiety, a decreased need for sleep, which means that someone who's afflicted with bipolar disorder type 1, they can sleep for, let's say, a couple hours, and the next day they're completely energized, they're not tired. And also when it comes to bipolar disorder, when it gets very severe, and I can't speak on this as far as, Kanye West, but when people have very severe episodes of bipolar disorder type 1, they may start to experience psychosis. So that can mean hallucinations. People may hear things or see things or feel like something's touching them, paranoia, delusions. Another sign and symptom of bipolar disorder is having grandiose delusions. So I remember yesterday Kanye was tweeting, and those tweets have been deleted, but he had said or mentioned that the movie Get Out was based upon his life, which I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but these are the types of things that it can be difficult for someone who isn't a mental health professional to, like I said, tease out. And so that's really why when someone's having an episode, it's important to try to get them help as soon as possible.
And so you were educating us a little bit on one type of bipolar disorder. Talk to me a little bit about the other. What does that one tend to look like?
So bipolar disorder type 2 is a milder form of bipolar disorder type 1, and that is pretty much characterized by episodes of what's called hypomania. So if mania is up here, as we saw with Kanye the other day, hypomania is basically like down here. Someone afflicted with bipolar disorder type 2, they can still function. They're actually heads of Forbes 500 companies who have hypomania. They don't need as much sleep. They're always go, go, go. It can cause problems with some people because they still can experience not just hypomania, but depression as well. And so for those patients, you can treat their signs and symptoms with medication, and but again, their symptoms are not as severe as bipolar disorder type 1, which is what Kanye has been experiencing.
And there were a lot of conversations, and I know that you saw these because you were in some of them, about people who were disappointed in how Kanye's episode was discussed online and by news organizations. What's your feedback as a professional? How can people be more productive in how they discuss mental illness in general?
I think the main issue is, and which is another reason why I started my podcast, is that a lot of people don't have the words or vocabulary that are necessary to really have true and serious discussions about an illness like bipolar disorder. So a lot of people know that bipolar disorder is also called manic depression. And unfortunately, because there is still a lot of stigma surrounding mental health, even when I was tweeting on Sunday, there were people like, well, why would you say that about him? And, they took it as though I was dissing Kanye West. And I'm like, I'm not dissing him, but I am trying to educate people that this is something that we need to talk about, because if we don't talk about it, it's going to get swept under the rug. And when someone else, a family member or a friend, or, hopefully not, but someone in the public eye, when they're going through this, we will be better equipped if we can talk about it in the terms that we need to talk about it. We need to start talking about mood swings. We need to start talking about, hypomania. We need to start talking about impulsivity, because as long as we are collectively ignorant of what bipolar disorder is, you leave a lot of room for people to get confused or to be like, oh, you know what, you're really like bashing me. And it's like, we're not bashing you. We just want to try to help you. And sometimes that means that, yes, you do have to be labeled in order to get treatment.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of examples lately of celebrities using social media as a cry for help, whether it's a result of bipolar disorder or not. But what is the best way for loved ones and friends to respond or offer help to people that they love who act similarly? We saw, earlier today, Dave Chappelle went straight to him for help. Is that the right way to react?
Sure. I think there isn't a best way to react. I think that, when it comes to bipolar disorder, these are people who are struggling to understand what it is as well. So what we collectively need to do, if you know someone who has bipolar disorder and is maybe going through a depressive episode or a manic episode, ask them how they're feeling. try to help them understand that, you know what, last week or 2 weeks ago, you were this way and now you're this way, and I'm concerned, and maybe we should, make an appointment so we can go see someone in our community so that a therapist or a mental health professional can actually help the person see if therapy would be a good option or if medications are a good option. But I think the main thing is to just offer support, because when you are experiencing manic symptoms, it can be kind of scary. And so I did understand Kanye tweeting yesterday that, oh, well, my wife tried to fly out here with a doctor or something similar, and that's not really always the best way. Having an intervention, so to speak, isn't always the best way, because the afflicted person, the person who's exhibiting mental illness, can then project their anger onto the person that's trying to help. So I would say just be very comforting, soothing, just keep trying to hammer into the person like, hey, you're not feeling well and I can see it and I care about you. Let's just see if we can maybe make an appointment. And, it's like, I'll even go with you, at least then, I can learn more about this mental disorder, like you.
All right, Dr. Imani, thank you, first of all, for being brave and stepping up on Twitter to explain things, because that is not an easy job. But also thank you for coming here and explaining this to us. We appreciate your insight very much.